Uh, Namaste everyone. Welcome to this evening's Y20 Talks program, jointly organized by Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Research Foundation, New Delhi, and the Verandah Club, Coimbatore. Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Research Foundation is a think tank based in New Delhi, and it has been ranked globally as the number 30th by the Wharton School of Business as the leading think tanks of the world. And we have with us today two esteemed guests. Before that, what is Y20? Y20 is a youth outreach program of the G20. So the guests for today are two very special people. Professor Kanagasabapathi ji, former chairman of ICSSR and now
Yes, sir.
a trustee and secretary at the Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Foundation, New Delhi. And Dr. Jagat Shah, whose philosophy is action at the speed of thought. He has mentored several businesses and driven over his mentor on road program. Through his mentor on road program, he has driven over 6 lakh kilometers covering 20 countries in 15 years. And he has had the distinct privilege of being the top 50 people in the world to be chosen by WhatsApp in February 2009, much before the advent of smartphones became so popular. He was part of the 50 people who did the beta testing for WhatsApp. And later in 2009, November, WhatsApp was formally launched. A small brief into Dr. Jagat Shah's work. Dr. Jagat Shah is, apart from Mentor on Road, he's a founder of Global Network Institute. He's a PhD in international business. Over a period of 25 years, what he has done is his firm and himself have trained 6,000 business owners and professionals on export and international business. What a transformative effort, sir. Staggering numbers. 800 companies have been trained on exporting goods, services up to the worth of 10 crores. That is translating into US dollars of 1.34 million. 250 companies are exporting up to rupees 10 crores to up to 100 crores. That is between 1.34 million USD to 13.4 million USD. 80 companies are exporting up to 100 crores to 500 crores. That is from 13.4 million USD to 67 million USD. These are the number of companies which the global network has trained. Network Institute has trained, and 6 companies are exporting up to 500 crores to 1000 crores. That is 67 million to 135 million USD. 2 companies are exporting up to 1000 crores to 2000 crores. That is 135 million USD to 270 million USD. Remarkable achievement and great initiative and inspiration. And both Professor Sir and Professor Sir was done a lot of research and study on the native perspectives of Indian business and how the culture and economy have been intertwined in our Indian civilization. And Jagat Shah ji, with his immense knowledge on the business ecosystem of the global era today, are here to explain to us the future of work industry 4.0. Over to you, Professor Sir. You can lead the discussion with Dr. Jagat Shah ji.
Thank you, Jagan. Thank you. Welcome all the guests. Particularly, we have an important guest from Gulf. So, welcome you, sir. So, we have a very, very important personality today, Dr. Jagat Shah Bhai. You know, I always consider him as an incorrigible optimist. When I met him about 7 years back, you know, when most of the industry business people used to always complain, he was the one who said optimistically, you know, here the opportunity. You immediately go and catch hold of it. You know, you will become a millionaire. So I have seen many people. He was telling me that he has made 6,000 exporters, out of whom many were not into exports 5 years back, 10 years back, 15 years back. In fact, once I went to his office in Ahmedabad, he made me to sit in a group of in a meeting group, his team meeting, wherein the team leaders were explaining as to how they created so many exporters in their own regions. So he has been doing a remarkable work. I have seen entrepreneurs in the last 30 years of my study in different parts of the country, but he is entrepreneur. I don't have any other words. India is today known for entrepreneurship, and people like Dr. Jagat Shah is instrumental in creating several hundreds of exporters. So hats off to you, sir. You are playing a very important role in the development of our country. Thank you very much. So we are today privileged and pleased to have you with us as a part of this online initiative, Y20 initiative. First, I would like you to briefly explain your mentor on road event. I know you have explained to me earlier, but I want our own viewers also to know about it. So you please start with that. Mentor on road. Please explain.
Thank you, Professor Kanagasabapathi and Jagan, for inviting me to this very interesting program. And I have very, very high respects for Professor Kanagasabapathi. We are part of a university, and what a marvelous work has been done in that university under your leadership. And Verandah Club is also doing amazing work, and it will be etched in history for all the programs which you do. And so, Professor, I have a hobby of long distance driving for many years. So I take holidays with family. Now my children have grown up, but when they were young also. And then it was in 2012 when Mr. Modi was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and I had accompanied him to China. We got a lot of time together. So he came to know about my long distance driving hobby. And then he said, why don't you attach a cost to it? You are just going and having a holiday and you are enjoying yourself, which is good, but then attach some cost to it. So I remember that time Right to Education Act had come. So I only asked him, what cost should I attach? It's my holiday. Whole year I'm working hard. But he said, no, Right to Education, you try to find how impactful it is. And I did a road tour from Ahmedabad to Ladakh. And I went to schools, parents, children, everybody. And then I really enjoyed that process. That, I was having my holiday, but at the same time, I was having some meaningful interaction with society. And because I enjoyed and my family also enjoyed, so we then kept doing it. And when Mr. Modi became Prime Minister, he suggested that you do mentor on road all over India and give me ease of doing business report. Because that time our ease of business index was very poor, 149 out of 189. So that's how I did all India tour, and it was again very, very satisfying. And I met more than 10,000 people, including I came to you in Coimbatore.
Yes.
And one of the best entrepreneurs I found was in Coimbatore. Today, entrepreneurs are there in this meeting from all the places. I'm honest to tell. Amazing, hardworking, and such amazing entrepreneurs. And if I am not wrong, majority of my 6,000, I think highest number of my students are from Coimbatore and Tamil Nadu. So,
very good.
One of the reason of my success, I would say, is Tamil Nadu. So anyway, but so then I continued, and then I did a mentor on road tour in America, and then Africa, and then entire Europe and Southeast Asia and Sri Lanka when there was a big crisis in Sri Lanka. So a lot of countries started inviting me when there was a crisis and gave me a subject that, you must go town to town, village to village, cities to cities, and educate this particular cause of what is the solution to this. So I started enjoying that, and therefore I have continued to do that. And I just about 15 days back came back from Canada, my last mentor on road tour of 21 days, driving from Montreal to Vancouver. And now in November, we are driving for 59 days in Australia, Melbourne to Melbourne. Yeah, so that's the background.
Amazing contribution by you. So we will have discussion on the future of industry, future of work, industry 4.0, maybe for about half an hour. Then there are many people who would be willing to interact with you. So we will give them some 15, 20 minutes, 20, even 25 minutes also. So as you rightly said, in our studies, we have found out that Gujarat and Tamil Nadu have a lot of similarities. Both are highly entrepreneurial states. And I have seen that in all our field studies, India has enormous entrepreneurial wisdom, enormous entrepreneurial initiatives. In fact, the developments that have taken place in the last 75 years is largely due to the initiative of the entrepreneurs at the local levels without depending on anybody. They create enterprises on their own. So this is the reason for the development of India. Fortunately, now we have a government that understands the issues relating to the entrepreneurs, as a result of which faster development is taking place. So I would like to ask you your thoughts on where are we now at the global level in terms of Industry 4.0. So where are we now? Because you know the global situation much better than any of us here. So please throw some light into it.
Yeah, thank you, Professor, for this very relevant topic. See, we crossed $100 trillion economy in the world, and US is 26 trillion, China is 19 trillion, India is 3.5 trillion. But whenever we talk of future, we are talking of future of work in relation to Industry 4.0. My approach has always been to start looking at past, because past and future are not, have to be connected to each other.
Yes.
If you see 1750, India's share in the global trade was 25%. Today
Yes.
it is 3.5%. 1750, 25%. And that is why British, French, Portuguese, a lot of people came to India and they ruled us for so many years for the wealth. And what was that era? There was no computer, there was no industrialization, there was no machines. Then what was that era? And how come India was 25%? That era was a knowledge era. It was a knowledge economy. If you look at our scriptures of 3,000 years back, 5,000 years back, you will find each and every technology of which we are talking today, it is mentioned in our manuscripts. So that was the kind of era we are coming from. Now, let us talk of future. So particularly in pandemic, I observed something very interesting thing has happened. Is what should have happened in next 10 years actually happened in 2 years of pandemic. Lot of things which were assumptions, people were hesitating to do that, has started happening. And therefore, when we also got into a lot of online based training, and we realized a very interesting model which we have coined, and today I am very glad that World Bank has adopted that approach and they acknowledge us for that. It is called KEYDW, and this is the future of work, KEYDW. So K is knowledge. We are again back to knowledge economy. It is a knowledge economy. It doesn't matter. Somebody is manufacturing, somebody is trading in service sector, they are students, they are housewives. It doesn't matter who you are. If you attach knowledge to your life, forget business, to your life will change. And I'll give many examples. So we are in a knowledge economy. So as much knowledge we will attach to business, that much business will, or that much our life will improve. Second, we are in an eco-friendly economy. In the pandemic, we saw that how everybody was praising the clean environment. And that clean environment was because no human was going out and spoiling it, right? Every human was inside the house, right? But so that is that, and nature always has its own way to balance, So that we are in an eco-friendly economy. First time eco-friendly businesses and eco-friendly products are acceptable in the society. Earlier also it was, but anything eco-friendly was always costly, and therefore the consumers were not ready to buy. But now in the pandemic, that is something changed. So that is the second. Third is youth-driven economy. You look at most of the developed countries, they are all aging economies. But look at India. Our population is 1.4 billion, but 1 billion people are below 35 years of age. 700 million people are below 25 years of age. And 700 million people below 25 years of age are 100% literate. And we have 850 million mobile phones. Now, that is youth-driven economy. Youth as a consumer, and therefore youth as a service provider, youth as a workforce is going to be extremely important. Then D is digital economy. We are in a digital economy. Today, here also, we are able to reach to people all over the world through this platform. And therefore, it is not just this type of meetings, but any business anybody is doing, any career anybody wants to follow, digital, economy is going to play a role. Look at things like Chat GPT, and it is transformational. How? Only 2 years back, there was no Chat GPT. Suddenly it is there, and how it is transforming things. Of course, there are issues of ethics which also apply to every new emerging technology like artificial intelligence also, and I'll come to that. However, digital, and I'll give you a quick example. In the pandemic, I started talking to a lot of small, medium companies, even large companies. I spoke to Tata Group also and Mahindra, and I said, can you do digital audit of your company? Can you list out that what are the activities in all your functions and how many of those are digitalized? And those which are not, we actually found out 100 tools and we said this can be digitalized. And a lot of people have this misconception, and this is very relevant to your subject, Professor, that future
Yes.
of work industry 4.0, that, the 4.0 industry is going to take away jobs. There is no evidence about it. It is not, in my understanding, it is not true. It is only going to reskilling. We need to reskill. I was reading a report of World Bank on world education of 2020, which said 72% of the existing workforce in the world has to be retrained by 2025.
Oh.
We are not talking about the young people who need to join the job market. We are talking of already existing workforce. So that reskilling is going to actually create competitiveness in businesses, and businesses will grow and they will hire more and more people, right? So digital economy is fourth, and the fifth is work from home or work from anywhere. And again, in pandemic, it got proven that work from home works. Earlier, it was not so. A lot of companies have started pushing people to come back to office. But imagine how much pollution we are creating, how much travel we are doing, how much we are getting tired, how much actually, I personally speaking, when I used to work from my office, we used to do so many meetings. I don't know now what we used to discuss in those meetings, in those physical meetings. And suddenly we went online and we were able to increase our productivity, and a lot of people were saying that it happened. So this KYDW, knowledge, eco-friendly, youth-driven, digital economy, and work from home. Anything to do with these five is the future of the work, and it is going to transform, whether it is technology-based or whether it is a need of the society.
Excellent. You have put it in a very easy manner, in a nutshell, as to how the future of industry is going to be. I remember you always used to emphasize 2 points. One is digitalization, second one, skilling from the very beginning. So
Correct.
if we see the developments in the last 7-8 years, Dr. Jagat Bhaji, we understand that Indians, by and large, even very ordinary people, they have taken this digitalization very seriously, and it has become very natural for them. We never knew 6-7 years back an ordinary lady selling flowers will use this instrument to get money from us instead of getting cash. So how do you see this? Indians accepted this digitalization very naturally. Now reports say that 45% of digitalization that is taking place in the whole world, it takes place in India. So
Correct.
how do you, yes.
Yeah, so the most wonderful part of digitalization, what I find, is that earlier the thought process was that things like digitalization, things like Industry 4.0 is relevant to big business. It is relevant to multinational corporations. It is relevant to large
Correct.
economies. It is relevant to developed economies. India, I think, set an example in the world
Yes.
that it is relevant to poor people also. It is relevant to lower middle class also. If you see in India, the women, when they earn money, because of their poverty, because of the illiteracy, the men will take away the money and drink up alcohol.
Yes.
And now that money is coming in digital form. They
Yes.
can't take it away. And that money is being used for children's education and the family health care. Now, look at next 20 years and how it is going to impact the society. So it is so empowering. And if you look, it is amazing. You know, we did 48 billion digital financial transactions last year. We did more financial transactions digitally than USA and China put together.
Oh,
Can you imagine? And I was in Canada for 2 months, and I was telling Canadians, here is what we are doing. Do you have anything like that? They said no. They do not have even now. Right? And they were very surprised, many of them. So digitalization is very empowering. And look at, I mean, direct bank transfer from the government point of view. Everybody from Rajiv Gandhi to every, I appreciate Rajiv Gandhi's honesty. He used to say, if government gives 1 rupee, 10 paisa goes to the poor. He used to say, he accepted. Now 1 rupee is going. It was only a question of digitalization. Today,
yes.
direct bank transfer, all government benefits going directly without any discrimination. The system doesn't understand any religion or any caste or any creed or any region. It is a program. It says everybody in India who has got a Aadhaar card and identification will get so much money, and everybody gets, because it's a system-driven thing. What a powerful democratization of digitalization. I use the word
Yes.
democratization of digitalization.
Yes.
So
yes.
far, digitalization was actually a monopoly. And India set an example of decentralized digitalization.
Yes, yes, yes. Very good. In fact, I remember we used to discuss as to how there is a huge gap between what is happening at the industry level and what are we as teachers teach in universities and colleges. We have discussed as to how there is a huge gap between the university system and the real functioning business industry system. Now, as you said, because of the skilling efforts over the last 6, 7, 8 years, developments are happening. So, how do you see this skilling, reskilling, where we have to concentrate more, or what we have achieved so far? You please enlighten us.
Yeah, so if you see, you know, the one by one the programs which came, and a lot of people in India joked about it, is Make in India, Skill India, Digital India, you know, Clean India, Smart India, Stand Up India. So each of these program had a relevance, and when it was coming one by one, it was a butt of joke. Today, when you see all put together, it's a very, very amazing strategy. I have a very big 1 hour talk on this, but let me tell you about skilling. So if you see what's happening, we are all talking of artificial intelligence. We are talking of machine learning. We are talking of robotics. And we are saying this is going to take over the world. We need to skill our young people on human machine collaboration. This is inevitable. Artificial intelligence, robotics is inevitable. It is going to happen. It has happened. It is going to go all over, right? But where is the element of human machine collaboration? That is the skill, because ultimately any machine will be run by human, right? But what that collaboration skill will have to come. Then you look at mental health, particularly after pandemic, but even before that. After pandemic, it came out very loudly because it was a trigger, but actually mental health has been an issue of 20 years, and it is going to be a greater issue of next 20 years because of all these, all these technology upgrades which are happening. Now, mental health is a huge carrier. That itself is going to bring a lot of people. Environmental sustainability. You see what's happening. We had floods all over India. We are having fires in Canada. We are having earthquake. We are having cyclones everywhere. One thing I have understood: nature has its way of balancing. We humans may think whatever, we may cause whatever damage. Nature will always balance itself. It has always done for thousands of years. It will always do for thousands of years. So environmental sustainability is a huge carrier. Peace and conflict management. For today's talk, I was just going through, I was shocked. I was myself shocked. Today, there are 122 countries in the world where some kind of conflict is taking place. Imagine. Now, our young people should be skilled on peace and conflict management. Imagine the kind of opportunity they will have, right? And I am able to relate to that. My own daughter, she did masters in peace and conflict studies from Canada, and she's working there now. So I was able to relate it to today's, youth, as well as the kind of a need which the society would have. Again, when we were talking earlier, Professor, about the digitalization, huge opportunity for the young people on digital transformation. Who is going to do that digital who is going to handhold for the digital? We are talking of digitalization, but the digital transformation, who is going to handhold? And that requires skill, and those type of skills will be required. Even social media, managing the social media. Now almost every country in the world is coming out with rules and regulations to bring some kind of a discipline and ethics in social media, because with AI it is scary. It is scary. I can put your face into a video and do anything, and it will be so difficult to prove it is original or not. It is so scary. There has to be ethics. There will have to be rule-based system, right? However, you will need ethical. This is the word I am using. It has still not come as a career. Ethical social media managers. So certification requires to be done for that. A set of rules has to be prepared for that. Skilling has to be done for that kind of a work. You look at freelancing. Again, in the pandemic, it started happening that people, because they were at home and they were doing two jobs, sometimes with the permission of the first company they were working, sometimes without permission. But then the second work was a freelancing. And I know a lot of young people who then actually quit the job and then they are just doing freelancing, right? So now freelancing itself will require skill. Now, what is freelancing? In my understanding, freelancing is nothing but entrepreneurship. It is self-employment. Look at the data of India. In India, we are producing 16 million, 1.6 crore fresh graduates every year. Even if we double our current growth, where is the question we are going to be able to create jobs for them? It's not going to be possible. Only solution is self-employment. And for self-employment, there is a whole set of skilling which will be required. Even you talk of automation, you go to tech areas like data analytics, you go to IoT, you go to connectivity, or your augmented reality, virtual reality, talk of cybersecurity. One thing, Professor, I want to talk here, when cybersecurity comes, a skill is required for every pain point of society. Today, what is the pain point of society? I was reading that the communication of the ambassador of US was hacked, and in China, and all the communication is out. It is a pain point of society. Now, cyber security itself will require skilling. You will need thousands of people who will be able to first prevent it. Here we are talking of finding a solution to what has happened, but to prevent it. Now, that type of skill will be required. Space technology. We have just recently sent our to the moon. Genetic engineering, nanotechnology. You talk of quantum computing is going to be transformational. People will forget artificial intelligence when quantum computing takes its commercial role. Your blockchain, Web3 tech, e-commerce. Again, each one of us, I don't think there must be anybody in this audience who is not buying stuff online. But how is that to be regulated for the young people? How we have to make sure that even upper middle class do not, I was reading, Professor, another report, very interesting, that in Australia, they found out that 68% of the things which were bought last year in Australia by the age group of 16 to 35 was never used for 2 years. So it was just buying and keeping it. Whereas there are so many people who are being deprived of it. So e-commerce will require some kind of a discipline, your cloud computing, your biotech engineering. I mean, it is endless. Renewable energy. What we are doing, we are damaging all these floods, everything is being caused because of the kind of mining we are doing. And we are doing mining for coal. Coal is being used for energy. If we go to alternate sources of energy, which is sun, moon, and what is sun? What is sun? What is solar energy? What is wind energy? You go to our scriptures. We don't have to go far. You will find every source of energy mentioned. So we are going back to past, and we will need to have skill, and that National Skill Development Corporation has kind of, listed all those standards which should be followed for those skills, and are trying to do what needs to be done. But I think it needs to be scaled up in a very big level, at a village level. Even today, Professor, 65% of India's population lives in village.
Yes.
So we will have to go there and do a skilling program, not expect them to come to city and then get themselves skilled and then stay back in city and not go back to village. And in those days, 1750, Professor, the 95% of India lived in villages.
Yes.
And we had 25% of the GDP of the world.
Yes. 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 You are very right. Within a very brief period, you have explained very excellently the salient points where we have opportunities in different segments. Excellent. And my question is, you have now presented the opportunities. So for India, what are the challenges, and what will be the challenges that we have to face?
You see, the challenge for India, I feel, is that on one side, we consider that such a large population is our asset. We talk of demographic dividend. But on the other side, the same large population can become a threat also, if we are not able to channelize that population to productive work. And that is where the role of skilling comes. Because I must be honest to tell you, though I am also a outcome of the same education system, but our education system has failed the country. Our education system has failed our youth, right? Earlier, if I was not a graduate and I didn't get good work, I used to blame myself. And also, if I had got educated, it would have been good. My life would have been good. Today, I am educated, I am an engineer, but I don't have a job. Whom will I blame? I'll blame the system. And we will have a very, very serious civil unrest situation in the country. So we have to make sure that this large population, which is going to increase every year. I remember 2 years back, I used to talk 14 million fresh graduates joining job market. Now I'm talking 16 million fresh graduates. It's only going to increase, right? So that is one thing which is very important. Second, I have always believed that until and unless India gets into international business like exports, and that is why I took that as my passion, we are not going. Our Prime Minister Modi has given two slogans. One, we should be a $5 trillion economy by 2025. Second, we should be a developed country by 2047, when we will complete 100 years. So I was doing research. I did not find a single country in the world which has become a developed country without high export as a percentage of their GDP. Our export as a percentage of GDP is very low. China in 1981 was equal to Indian economy. Today it is 19 trillion. We are 3.5 trillion. The difference is they are an export-oriented economy. We are a consumption-oriented economy. Right? So the challenge is that we will have to make small, medium enterprises get into export big time. We have 60 million small, medium enterprises in India. It is not even the population of 100 countries. I mean,
Yes.
said separately, 60
Yes.
million. Imagine. And until and unless we go to international market, even today, Indian market is in a way protected for the small, medium enterprise. The day the protection will go away, it will be very difficult to compete with the world. And that skilling will be required, I feel, in a big way. And India, I don't think can grow without high exports. And of course, the skilling is part of that. So then I also, about innovation, I always say, innovation is key to economic competitiveness. Because if 60 million people, out of that 100,000 people are doing the same business. There is no differentiator. So the only differentiator the companies are using is price. And when they reduce price and sell, they are killing the Indian economy, because then others also have to do the same, because there is a supply available. So innovation is the only differentiator, right? And also equity. We will have to bring equity into the society. So I have this definition of competitiveness. What you asked, I relate it to the competitiveness. Efficiently create goods and services which meet global market demand, leading to rising living standard for everybody in the society, and which is sustainable into the future. The first two is economics, the next two is social. And until and unless we bring all these four elements together into our society, into our country, into our economy, it is going to be a big challenge to overcome, the kind of changes which are taking place in the world.
Yes, yes, you are very right. The education system for a very long time have failed our country. We have observed as to how, the development, in fact, is in spite of the education system. But fortunately, now we have introduced this new education system, and hopefully, it will be able to address these issues. Challenges, you have presented it in a very, very clear manner. So, thank you very much. And before going to the other aspect, I thought I should uh, request you to explain briefly about one or two success stories, because I have seen success stories from your team. Very many success stories. So if you can share at least one, maybe for about 2-3 minutes, our people will understand the kind of efforts that you are putting over the years.
See, with your permission, Professor, I would like to share my success story of Afghanistan. Because to me, Afghanistan is a benchmark of my work. It is a benchmark. I have not found a bigger challenge than that in my life. I worked there for 10 years on and off. I used to work with USAID and US Department of Defense, but I used to work on economic field. And I was working with carpet weavers, and I was working with dry fruit farmers, and I was working with women who make handicrafts and the marble companies. And none of them were exporting. My job was simple: to create competitiveness. I knew competitiveness can only be created by exporting. And we worked so hard there. I have not found, to be very honest, put my hand in my heart and tell you, there is no greater entrepreneurial talent in the world than the Afghanis. Amazing entrepreneurship. If you know, we used to have that Pathan who used to come with Kabuli, Kabuli wala ya Kabuli wala. There is a song with all the, pista kishmish, and they used to sell by walking in India in those days. And still that entrepreneurship is there. It is a tragedy that how the situation is there today. But that is my biggest success story. I was able to create a consortium of 12,000 carpet weavers. The difference in Afghanistan is that why no country in the history of 1,000 years has ever been able to rule Afghanistan. Never. Russians failed. Americans had to go back. Nobody is able to rule. Why? Because they are very, very proud people. Now, what I found that when we were able to bring them together, and then we created 4 consortia and 16 carpet weavers we trained as master weavers, and we took them to abroad. First time in the history of Afghanistan, the Afghani carpets, I'm talking of 2005, the Afghani carpets were being displayed directly by Afghani companies. Otherwise, it used to be Pakistani companies and other trading companies who used to present. And the pride which I saw, we had taken part in a 4-day exhibition in Germany, in Domotex, which is a very popular carpet show. And we had taken $800,000 of carpets. And everybody was, looking at us, American government, German government, World Bank, because, this was a very, very prestigious project. And we had to sell, because if we can't sell, then, the whole project collapses and the entire economic thing goes for a 6. And in 1.5 days, we sold the $800,000 carpets, and these 16 carpet weavers, they sold. And the pride which I saw in their eyes, and they were literally in tears when the last carpet was sold, and so it is so satisfying. What I'm trying to say, Professor, economic empowerment, there is no alternate to that. Economic empowerment can change anything. And I'll quickly narrate with a very emotional example of mine. So when I was telling them that, we are going first time, I was doing a training in Kabul, and I said, the kind of dress which you wear, it is very good traditionally, it is very good culturally. But in my opinion, because of the Western media, the way it has projected, Afghanistan in the world, I think it is better if we wear suits because we are going to a professional exhibition. And they were very upset with me. They said, no, you are doing great work for us. We respect you, but don't talk about our culture. Don't talk about our clothing. Uh, don't worry about it. Anyway, so I was very worried because, the Western culture, and I wanted to sell our carpet directly to the consumer. I wanted to position that, look, the Afghani carpet is amazing, God gifted art. Anyway, so they were quite upset with me and they were very angry also. And I stopped the discussion and I said, it's okay. I'm sorry. It is my mistake. But that is what I felt. It's okay. If you feel no, it's fine. I'm okay. Anyway, we reached. I went early, Frankfurt. The 16 carpet weavers came. And I had told them that in the exhibition booth, we should be in suit and, shirt, pant and tie and all. In the airport, each and every one of the 16 was in suit and tie and board. And they came to me, the first leader hugged me, he said, we went back, we discussed about what you were talking, and we felt that if you are our teacher, and if you feel that this is what we should be doing, we will do it. Because we are concerned about the future of our children in the country. I cried there. I have got the pictures. And because I was under pressure, and then now you see the most beautiful part. The day we sold our carpets, on the third day morning, they were all in their traditional dress, and they had brought one traditional dress for me also. And they came to my hotel and you said, you wear this, now your pressure is gone, our sales is done. Now we will go and show you what is our culture. And people came, they were taking photographs with them. So sometimes it is very interesting thing in life that sometimes as a professional, what we think and how people behave and how things happen, it was the most moving thing in my life till date. And we had great fun. We stayed back 1 week. We went on tourism. They are my friends. Their children have become, successful business people. They come regularly to Ahmedabad to meet me. And when I see their children, because I used to go to their house and eat, I created friendships with them. The Americans used to be scared to go out of embassy. And I used to go and I learned Pashto, and, I used to dress up with them. So I have like the story of every place in the world, including India, right? But I wanted to use this example to tell that this was my, benchmark where there was not only a professionalism but also an emotional, feeling of mine.
Amazing. Salutes to you. Uh, before going to our friends, I have one final last question, even though I have many. You have enormous um, uh, insights, enormous uh, experience, as well as your power to convert people, ordinary people, into very successful exporters, entrepreneurs. I don't know how you get so many ideas, your secrets and all. So hats off to you. But finally, what are the suggestions that you would like to give to our entrepreneurs, our youth population? Because this is for Y20 with regard to this future of work, Industry 4.0. You please offer your suggestions.
Yeah. So, Professor, there are two things I want to talk about. You see, today we have Nasser with us from Qatar, a very good friend of mine. And Middle East was not a very prosperous country till they got the oil. When they got the oil, they became rich. I use this word, data is the new oil. Data is the new oil. If we know how to use data, we can really become rich, right? So that is one. Second, I want to tell entrepreneurs that there is a problem in our country in India. We are afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. Entrepreneurship is all about taking risk. Entrepreneurship, what is risk? Risk means return. Higher the risk, higher the return. So it is okay to fail, is my philosophy. It's okay to fail. Fail early and fail small. But take risks, take chances, right? Don't be in a very comfort zone. I also say it's okay to make mistake, but never repeat the same mistake. And the last thing I want to tell, and this is what I educate to all my students also, is the 7 forms of capital. Implement that. There is a World Bank framework which is called Wolfenson's framework, which I practiced for 20 years, maybe, yeah. And I have found it to be amazing successful. And entrepreneurs should implement that. 7 forms of capital, 3 lower forms of capital and 4 higher forms of capital. Lower form of capital is natural endowment. If you feel you are closer to sources of raw material, so you will become competitive and successful. It is not true. That is why our farmers in India are not rich. Otherwise, they should have been rich. That is why our minerals, mine workers are not rich. Man-made also infrastructure has a limitation. Financial money itself. I'm surprised that World Bank, which is a financial organization, says finance is a lower form of capital. There are 3 lower forms of capital: natural endowment, man-made, and financial. 4 higher forms of capital. Those higher forms of capital entrepreneurs need to use. Entrepreneurs always say, I don't get access to capital. And when they say capital, they're only talking of money. There are many other forms of capital. For example, institutional capital. Today, this our Shama Prasad Mukherjee Research Foundation, where we have gathered, is an institutional capital. The chambers of commerce are institutional capitals. The trade associations are institutional capital. Be part of that, and you will see your business transform, because they are multipliers. Then knowledge capital. Knowledge capital. I kept talking about that. No Bill Gates. Bill Gates was not rich. He never had money. Narayan Murthy, in our own country, Narayan Murthy. He was a teacher. Sudha Murthy, his wife, had to put her jewelry on loan to buy first 5 computer. What is the size of the company today? The only difference is knowledge. So attach knowledge to business, and business will go. And then the human element, very interesting. And here is where our entrepreneurs need to pull up their socks. 2 elements of human capital: self-responsibility and action orientation. A lot of our entrepreneurs are self-responsible, but action orientation is less. Example of an action orientation: whenever a new technology comes, they should immediately adopt it. See, it doesn't work, junk it, throw it out, but adopt it, accept it, learn it, implement it. Doesn't work for you, kick it out. Works for you, you are in the next level. So human capital. And I feel so proud that World Bank, which I consider to be a capitalist organization and a financial organization, says that cultural capital is the highest form of capital. And this Afghani example also I related to that. They say architecture is highest form of capital. Professor, you will be surprised. The largest employment creator sector in the world is tourism. And we go to Italy and we take pictures of 180-year-old buildings and we post it in our Facebook. We have 1,000-year-old buildings in India. Yes. And we do not go there because we have not maintained them well. It is a high form of capital. It creates highest jobs, tourism sector. And then if you look at music, every one of us here must be loving music. Music calms you down. Can we use music in the shop floor in factory? It will calm down the workers. Their productivity will go up. We have already tested it in Noida under a United Nations project. 30% productivity went up of 10 factories workers only because there was a music being played in the shop floor. Music is a high form of capital. Indian diaspora. I am very proud. Our Prime Minister Modi is the first leader perhaps in the world, not in India, in the world, to understand the power of diaspora and to engage with the diaspora. The Indian diaspora abroad is not the vote bank. They don't vote in India. But then it is a high form of capital, because if they start engaging with India beyond the cultural and social linkages, but on business side, then it is going to transform the country. Because whoever has gone out of India, people say brain drain. I always say dollar gain. We are a 140 crore people. About 2 lakh people are going out every year from India. What is it that is a percentage of a country? It is not even 0.01%. But then it's fine. Everybody will look opportunity everywhere. And You will be surprised, Professor. Do you know 4,000 Americans came to India to live in India in last 5 years?
Oh.
Yes.
Hmm.
And 1,400 Japanese have come to live in India forever. It is tragic that they can't get citizenship in India because we don't give. But movement of labor will always happen in the world. It has been happening for 5,000 years. When there was no engine, our sail used to go to Africa, our sailboat, wherever wind is there, boat will go and people would migrate, right? So these are the 7 forms of capital I want to encourage entrepreneurs to try to implement in their business. It will transform their work.
Thank you. Excellent presentation, Jagat Shah bhai. Now I would like to let our viewers to interact with you. Jagan?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Fantastic,
please.
sir. Very inspiring and absorbing session. May I now request our participants to ask questions to Dr. Jagat Shah ji and Professor ji.
You want to ask, I mean, are they able to unmute themselves or ask question in chat? How is it?
Friends, you can either unmute yourself and ask, or you can post it in the chat box. Whichever way you prefer, you can do it. Unmute option is available, friends. So before somebody asks a question, I have a question. With this startup thrust and skilling, it's all beautifully tied up, sir. And today we are a very young country demography. The median age is perhaps 31. How do you see India growing, and how do you see the GDP? Where is it headed, sir?
Yeah. So actually, if you see startup, the word which has come, when I started my business, it was a startup. Nobody called it startup. Okay. But every new business is a startup. But today, the kind of focus, see, I always say, necessity is the mother of invention. Okay. The kind of employment creation we need to do in India is not going to happen through jobs. It doesn't matter how much we grow. It's only going to happen through self-employment. So startup is nothing but self-employment. And our youth are very talented. They just need those policy directions, that hand-holding, which Startup India kind of a program created. You know, I still remember when the Startup India started, the first year, 450 or something companies were there. Today, 90,000 in 7-8 years, right? And we were creating a unicorn, which is like $1 billion company, in 129 days. We were creating that in I'm forgetting the numbers, but it was a large number of months, 129 months or something, and then 60 months, and then 25 months, and 3 months. And now we may soon become the largest number of unicorns in the world. And Startup India is again connected to the technological development, because that is where the new era of jobs, the new era of opportunity is going to be there, right? Because everyone is digital, everyone is connected today. If you see, the people have smartphones. If you look at the American population, why is it that e-commerce is the largest market in US? Why is Amazon an American company? It is simply because, as a percentage of the population of US, there are only 3 things you need in e-commerce: a credit card or a debit card, computer or a smartphone, and internet connection. And almost 95% of the population of US has all 3 of this, right? Now, let me relate it to the pandemic. In spite of this, whatever growth took place in the e-commerce market in America in last 10 years, that much growth took place in first 3 months of pandemic. Can you imagine? And with that type of a population, and in India, we are now moving to that level, right? So Startup India is, and what is startup? Again, something interesting came to my mind. It is a pain point. it is a pain point. When you are identifying the pain point of a society, and in different era and different ages, in 2020 the pain point of society was different, in 2023 it is different. To me personally, today my largest pain point is the ethical part of artificial intelligence, is the ethical part of robotics, is my biggest pain point. Now, to solve that pain point, some young startup is going to come and they are going to solve that. That itself will become a big business, right? So anytime society, and at any given point of time, society always has pain points. So that the important thing for our entrepreneurs and young people is to identify the pain point of society and then come out with a solution. And there is a very good model to do that, which is called design thinking. If you look at the design thinking approach, and people say design thinking because it is, kind of a Western thought process, you go to our scriptures. Design thinking is a 3,000-year-old written methodology in our scriptures. It is nothing new. The word is design thinking because it's in English, so people can understand in the world. But in Sanskrit and in Pali, it is written in our manuscript. So design thinking is nothing but identify the pain point of society, ideate with the society and the stakeholders, come out with a solution, build a prototype, test the same idea with the same people who have a pain point, make changes, and then bring it to the market and commercialize. So startups are always now going to, and earlier also it used to be like, when I started my business, I remember I started my training school to train company. There was no, our exports of India was so low, and SMEs particularly were not exporting at all. To me, that was the pain point of society, that SMEs want to export, but they don't know how to export. I created a startup in 1996 called Global Network Institute, right? But how it transformed, right? But same thing today. Startup India is amazing program and very well respected. Americans, British, Japanese, Australians are studying our Startup India program, and I can tell you because I was in Canada, they have launched Startup India programs which are 70-80% matching to our Startup India program, and they are honest to tell that, and they have acknowledged it at many places. So we are setting examples for the world now.
Amazing, sir. Thank you, sir. So Sanjeev Duaji has a question. Sanjeev Duaji, you can unmute yourself and ask, please.
Sure. This is Sanjeev here, Dr. Jagat and Professor. Thank you very much for the talk. It was very interesting and very enriching. Two questions. One, do you think it is the right time for India to have a sovereign fund, like the Norwegian sovereign fund, like Qatari fund? Second part is more on the IT side of things, which is to do with the opportunity that is there in Middle East, since we have friends from Middle East, to talk about IT managed services and also IT contingent staffing. So how can we bridge the gap between the two economies, the Gulf and India?
Yeah, so in terms of sovereign fund, I think India is ready, and India just need to tweak its rules and laws a bit. But I think it's a huge opportunity. I was in a discussion with Canadian Pension Fund, and they were saying that the kind of opportunity which is in India, they are hardly doing 1% of the opportunity, right? So, however, there are some aspects of regulation, I think, which we will need to look into, because we will have to make it a very open and a very transparent, kind of a thing. And the very interest, I spoke about 7 forms of capital, and one of the important aspects of transparency is institutional capital. We have to have those kind of institutions which shows transparency, and we should have a long-term thinking. We cannot say retrospective tax. We cannot go back and say, now suddenly 5 years back you have to start doing this. So we will have to build that confidence. We will have to have predictable regulations, which honor what we commit. So that is the sovereign fund, very huge need and requirement. And in another way, it is already coming. If you see Aramco and some of those big groups have started investing in last 5 years, which they have never done in 50 years. So, and on the other part, the IT, the kind of a IT opportunity in Middle East. So I was just talking to an American company who has who is doing work in Neom City, right, in Saudi. And I mean, I like that approach. And the Saudi department, they told, you want to take advantage of IT infrastructure in Neom, set up a company in Saudi Arabia and be part of our economy, right? And he done that. So I think it is important that the talent in India, but physical presence in Middle East will be important to integrate the two. This is what exactly happened in US. How is that our IT exports is 270 billion US dollar, and I believe in next 5 years we will cross services exports more than merchandise export in India. All that export has in IT has happened because of outsourcing from US to India. But everybody you talk about, TCS or Infosys or Wipro or anybody, they all 25 years back opened offices abroad and were physically present, registered their companies. But till today, the work is being done from India. Large percentage of that. It's a win-win for both. That kind of a work has actually created competitiveness in American economy. It has created competitiveness in companies like Walmart and all. I don't know. There should be somebody, professor, somebody should be doing a very good question Sanjeev asked. Somebody should be doing research, maybe in our research foundation, that what would be happening to American companies if Indian IT was not part of their success story.
Yes.
I don't know, scary, how many would have closed,
Yes.
right? So that same story has to be repeated in Middle East, and I don't see that happening actually. I mean, it is the Indian IT companies who will have to take that. On the SME front, it's happening. If you look at small, medium enterprise IT companies of India, they are playing that role in Middle East. But still, it is not so aggressive as actually the opportunity provides. Right, so it will require some kind of funding support. It will require some kind, because the SMEs cannot sustain, because the cost of running an operation in Middle East is high compared to India, and the results will take time to come. So whether they have that much money to sustain themselves, and if they do not have, and if the government can come out with some kind of a support program, and that is exactly what 25 years back China did. When China wanted to increase its exports, they hired warehouses abroad, and then they offered to the Chinese companies that use it for 1 year for free. And then second year they didn't give free, because they said you made money, right? Now you do your own. So that kind of an initial push and initial incentive, I think, will be a game changer.
Yeah, I totally agree, Dr. Jagat. And in fact, my view is, at the SME level, there are a lot of opportunities to invest in Saudi Arabia, especially the incentives the government is offering there for the training programs that you can do for the local youth. And
Correct.
plus, IT staffing opportunities for managed services and otherwise, contingent staffing are there. I have some friends there. If anybody's interested to invest there, I'll be more than happy to kind of, help.
I'll connect you to some people, sure.
Thank you, Doctor.
And in fact, Nasser, if you want to add something, Nasser is from Qatar, and Qatar is one of the, I think, top 10 richest country in the world per capita. And look at the FIFA World Cup, the way they managed, and what an amazing country. I have such high respect that in our Asian continent, there is a country which is the richest in the world in terms of per capita, right? So nothing wrong in our Asian DNA. Right?
Actually, thank you so much for the nice presentation and sharing the knowledge, which I really very impressed to know a lot of things, and I learned a lot of things today, actually, especially about the digital transformation. Now in Qatar, as you rightly said, the government spent a lot of efforts and good support to the people, citizen, even the guys they brought from outside to make sure that the World Cup successful, and they achieved that. It was a big challenge for the government and for the society, but in the end, they have done it in the right way. At the same time, when you say the richest country, basically the investment made in gas in Qatar. So oil and gas sectors actually the best company here in Qatar where they did the export. The export only mainly in gas, oil. But the other sectors, unfortunately, is still very slow, very slow. So that is need some further improvements. Qatar, of course, encouraging all and SME to start the business and the digital transformation nowadays. And they say they are the future. It is the future for them. And as you rightly said today about the industry, how to be smart, that industry 4.0 by collaboration between the humans and the machines. This is very important part which you have highlighted as well. So Qatar as well government encouraging through something called Qatar Science Park. We have Qatar Science Club. They are encouraging the youngster to be in this line of businesses nowadays. So that is the good things. We are not like your experience, but still we are looking for some expat to come and support us with the knowledge, because knowledge is the money. Where without knowledge you cannot run the business. As you rightly said about the knowledge and eco-friendly environment and the digital transformation, those three areas, actually the government 100% focus on Qatar here. So this is the just a background about what we do nowadays.
Thank you.
Varun Agarwal ji, you had a question you can ask. Then we move to Dina Raj.
Jain sir, Commander Varun Agrawal. Sorry, my video, there is some issue. I'm not able to switch on the video, so my apologies.
No problem, no problem.
Sir, a very personal question. My daughter is in 10th standard, and for every parent, when you look at the future of work for children, the standard protocol right now in is that you let your child go through a technical counseling program at age of 15, trying to find out what the core competence of a child are, then match her choice or his choice for the profession. Idea is to match the job and the passion, which rarely happens in our system, and the child at the end of the whole thing is actually still struggling to choose what the core competence are. So what are your views? How do we go about when we have children who are in 10th and next year they have to choose one line or the other?
Sorry. I was facing this dilemma with my children many years back. And I found a very interesting way and I actually followed it. And it was extremely successful. Under the new education policy, there is a lot of leverage available for today's youngsters to select a area, but then change it in between, which was not there before, right? So first of all, there is flexibility between subjects. There is flexibility between taking a 6-month drop also and doing a, kind of a, some go and do some work in which they like and then pick up that subject. So there is the flexibility which has come now, particularly if your kid is in 10th, they are in a very, very good situation. But one program I will suggest you to look it up. It is the liberal studies, right? The Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay University in Gandhinagar was one of the pioneers to start School of Liberal Studies. And the beauty part of that, it's a 4-year program. And 2 years, you have to study 16 subjects. And then in the 3rd year, you select your specialization, right? By studying 16 subjects, you understand that what is it that you like based on some study. And then that was even before. But now, with the new education policy, I will encourage you to pick up such kind of a program where there is a flexibility. Because see, no youngster knows even you and me, when we were youngster, we did not know what we want to do. We did not know. Today there is a lot of counseling. In our age, there was no counseling. We just picked what came, right? So that problem is even today. So there is no way to counsel. The only way is that for them only to realize. And earlier, it was a very costly thing to realize. If I took admission in engineering, 4 years I will have to do engineering. I cannot go to arts. But now no more. I can still move from engineering to arts. After 6 months, if I feel like this is not what I want to do. So that flexibility, which has been created in our new education policy, is very, very beneficial to kind of situation you are talking about. And this is the challenge of majority. I talk to a lot of parents. This is actually a challenge of majority of the people.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Very nice, sir. So, Mr. Dinaraji, you can please ask the question.
Yeah. Hi, all. First of all, thanks, Jagan, for kind of enabling this platform to kind of talk, make the East talk to the West. So I do not have any questions for now. Just wholehearted thanks to Dr. Jagat Shah and Professor to kind of share their experiences, which is really selfless. So today's world, every second is being billed and being counted to kind of make money. Happy to be part of this group and hopeful to add further more to this group. That's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have one last question, I think. Rafael Zazuta has posted in the chat box. Would you mind asking it yourself or should I read it out, Mr. Rafael? Okay, the question reads, Dr. Jagat Ji, I agree that connecting with international markets is the most important element to explain competitiveness and accelerated growth for an SME region or country. How can an SME afford the high costs involved in reducing the risks associated with fraud in international trade?
Yeah. So actually, it is very interesting point you asked. Way back in 1959, Government of India created an organization called ECGC, Export Credit Guarantee Corporation. And almost every country has such an organization where, there's a Bern conference in Switzerland, which is actually a committee where every country is a member, and it's a credit insurance. So if you are giving credit to somebody, and if there is a fraud involved in that, then the ECGC pays you, but you have to pay a premium. And then ECGC is a big organization in India. Such organizations are in every country, and they can then recover from them. That is one. The another fraud which is happening a lot nowadays in financial transactions is the hacking. For example, I have one student in Goa who made a shipment to Kenya, and he was supposed to get $40,000, and email exchanges were going on, and suddenly somebody hacked the email, and they sent a pro forma invoice to the Kenyan company in which there is a different bank account, and there was only a very small dot which was the different in the email ID, right? And that Kenyan company paid because they said this has come from, they could not realize that dot difference in the email ID, and they paid to that bank, right, which was not the exporter's bank. And suddenly it was a big trouble. But fortunately, what has started happening, there are organizations like FATF or under United Nations and many others who are now catching this, but you have to report it very fast. So within 24 hours, it was reported. It was found out that this transaction was lying in a bank in London, and then that account was frozen very quickly, and he was able to recover. But in many cases, it is not happening because people do not know. It is about the knowledge, as I said. Knowledge is the capital. People do not know how to quickly, explore solutions of any fraud which happens, right? So there are tools now where resolution happens fast, right? So there are two type of fraud, as you say. One is willful default. You have given credit to somebody and they don't pay. They say you do whatever you want to do. So that I told you, there is an insurance, credit insurance for that everywhere in the world. And the other one is this kind of a fraud which happens. And then there is that Nigerian fraud, where all those fraud emails come and then they ask you to come there and then they kidnap you. So you have to be literate, that's it. And you have to know that how to be, how to take care of these. But fortunately, it was not this type, particularly that email fraud solution was not there 4-5 years back. And I'm very glad that it is in place now. However, the fact remains, Rafael, that the education of this type of solution is very low in the business community.
Right, sir. Professor Ji, would like to add something before we conclude the session for the day?
Dr. Jagat Ji, would you like to add anything? Because you have so much knowledge, so much information.
No, I always say, Professor, I always tell that I have always believed in this philosophy, and I always tell everyone who is in this audience today in Hindi, and then I'll tell in English, जितनी सरस्वती बांटोगे उतनी लक्ष्मी बढ़ेगी. As much knowledge you spread, that much your wealth will increase.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Yes.
And to whom you gave knowledge, the person who got knowledge, their wealth will also increase. What is a greater way than this to serve society?
Yes.
There is no greater way than this to serve society, right? So this is whatever you know, whatever knowledge you have in your product, in your sector, in your country, in your expertise, educate to more and more people, particularly the young people. Go to schools, go to colleges, take sessions, share your experience. Experience is something I feel is God gifted. None of us selected what I'm telling you. None of us. I don't know. That's what I feel. I talk to thousands of people. None of us selected what we are doing today. It has happened by default.
Yes.
One thing has led to another. So it is divine. It is God's gift. But what are we returning back to God? And when we die one day, all of us are going to die. What reply are we going to say? That we did everything for ourselves and accumulated the wealth. There is no greater wealth than Saraswati. There is no greater wealth than knowledge. Share the wealth. Nothing will reduce. On the contrary, your wealth will increase. So share as much knowledge you can, particularly with the young people, because the wisdom and the experience which we have as experienced people, the young people do not have. And if we can share, their life will change. What we took 20 years to learn, they will learn in 2 hours of your talk. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. Yeah.
We are extremely happy that you are a true son of Bharatiya values, which says that knowledge does not belong to oneself. So we should spread it. So you always have remained as a great motivator. And as I said earlier, entrepreneur. So your presentation today was extremely inspiring as always. And we are very pleased to have had interaction with you. So we will soon meet on some other occasion. In fact, I would have liked to talk, like you to talk on entrepreneurship and your own experiences. But because today's session is confined to this future of work industry to 4.0, we had to confine our discussion to this particular theme only. Thank you very much, Dr. Jagat Shah ji, for taking your time off and spending it with you. Many thanks. Thank you.
Thank you to all for attending and spending your time. Let's stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shamir ji. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Always in motivation and inspiring. Sir, on the 27th, I request all our participants to join us on a specific session between Professor Kanagasabapathi ji and former ISRO scientist and author Jagat Nadimuri Ravi ji on artificial intelligence and the changing landscape of workforce. So we'll take a cue from Dr. Jagat Shah's pain point, that is ethical aspects of artificial intelligence, and I think we should address it in the coming session. Thank you so much, sir, for always being a guiding light. Thank you, Professor.
Jagan, somebody asked how to be in touch. My email ID is jagat@globaljagat.com. So you can mail me jagat@globaljagat.com. Yeah.
Fantastic,
Thank
sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
very
much.
Bye. All the best.
Vande Mataram, Jai Hind. Thank you.
Bye.
Mm.